Hello and welcome to this tutorial on codeless data engineering in Google Cloud. My name is Yomi Uyemi and I am a technical architect. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to build data pipelines without writing any single line of code. But before we continue, what is a data pipeline? A data pipeline is simply a means of moving data from one place, which is usually the source, to a destination, such as a data warehouse. And along the way, we perform some transformation, optimize those data, and ensure it arrives in a state that it can be analyzed and used to develop business insights. We're going to be starting out by building an architecture similar to the one on this screen. What are we going to be doing? We're going to be building several data sources, such as a Cloud SQL instance database. We're going to be building an Amazon RDS database instance in AWS Cloud. Once we have different sources built, we're going to load sources with data, and then we can start ingesting that data into our data lake. Once we have our data in data lake, we're going to be exploring two separate services: cloud storage and BigQuery. We're going to be using cloud storage for storing unstructured data and BigQuery for storing structured data. Once we have our data in our data lake, we're going to explore a couple of other GCP services for building different pipelines, one of which is Cloud Data Fusion, which we're going to use for ETL jobs. We're going to use for managing our data pipelines. We're going to use it for wrangling of data, and then the output is going to be loaded in our data warehouse, BigQuery. Additionally, we're going to be talking about the use of Cloud Data Flow for building batch pipelines and transformation of data and loading that also in BigQuery. Towards the end of this tutorial, we're going to be looking at the use of Cloud Data Prep, a tool which we can use for profiling our data, creating recipes, which we can then apply to a larger data set and creating a job, and before we push the output into BigQuery. This tutorial is targeted at beginners to experienced professionals who are looking to learn how to build data pipelines or build data lakes and data warehouse in Google Cloud Platform. This tutorial is going to assume you have no experience whatsoever, but if you have experience with any cloud provider, be it AWS, GCP, Azure, even better. In this tutorial, we're going to try from learning how to set up a project in Google Cloud, introducing you to some of these services before we start building our data pipelines. Because this architecture diagram is very high level, what we're going to do is we are going to break this down into 4 separate data pipelines. But before we talk about the data pipelines we're going to be building, let me introduce you to our first chapter. In chapter 1, we're going to be exploring 2 cloud services called Cloud Storage and BigQuery, which is very central and integral to the data pipelines and architecture we're going to be building. With Google Cloud Storage, we are going to be using it for storing unstructured data. We're going to, in the course of the tutorial, learn how to create buckets, which you can see in the diagram on the right. We're going to create different buckets such as landing, processed, and curated. In landing is where we're going to be storing raw data which has not been transformed, and any data that has been transformed will be moved from the landing buckets into the other 2 buckets, processed and curated. In the course of exploring cloud storage, we're going to explore some of the features such as versioning, creating fine-grained permissions. We're going to look at how to create Google Cloud Storage classes. We're going to also experiment with lifecycle management rules and also ensuring that our buckets are highly available. For the second service, which we're going to be using as part of our data lake and also as our data warehousing solution, we'll be looking at BigQuery. BigQuery is GCP's data warehousing solution. We're going to be introducing you to how to create data sets, how to create tables in our data sets. We would also talk about loading data into our data sets. We're also going to look at how we can query data in our BigQuery data warehouse. We're going to explore how we can query data also stored in external data warehouses. We're going to work with views, introduce you to data governance and security in BigQuery data warehouse, and also other interesting features. In this chapter, we're going to be building our first data pipeline, which we will call Data Stream for Analytics. At the start, we will introduce you to a new Google service called Cloud SQL. Cloud SQL is a fully managed database service that can be used to easily set up, maintain, and manage and administer relational databases. We're going to be working specifically with a MySQL database engine. Once we've created a database, we're going to load it up with some data. And once we have data in our database, it's time to start building that pipeline. We're going to start off by introducing you to another service called DataStream, which is a serverless change data capture and replication service that makes it easy to synchronize data between our source and our destination. So with DataStream, we're going to move data from Cloud SQL into cloud storage, which is our data lake. Once we have our data in cloud storage, we're going to configure a PubSub notification on the bucket, which will then notify Cloud Dataflow, which we're going to be using for building another data pipeline for moving data from cloud storage into BigQuery, our data warehouse. Once we have data in our BigQuery data warehouse, we can then start connecting that to Data Studio and creating insight for our users. For our second data pipeline, we'll be introducing you to another Google service called Cloud Data Fusion. Cloud Data Fusion is a fully managed cloud-native enterprise data integration service for ETL developers, data analysts, and data engineers. It can be used for quickly building and managing data pipelines, transforming data without writing any code. It is an easy way to quickly move data around by using the visual point-and-click interface to easily design and deploy our data pipeline. During the course of using Data Fusion for building data pipelines, we're going to build three very simple data pipelines. The first, we're going to be connecting to cloud storage, ingesting or loading or extracting data from there, moving it into Cloud Data Fusion, wrangle the data, transform it, and once we've transformed it, we're going to create a pipeline and then load that data into cloud storage and BigQuery. Also, we'll create another data pipeline where we're going to take data from two separate sources, join those data together in Cloud Data Fusion, perform some transformation, and load the data in cloud storage and BigQuery. Towards the end of this chapter, we're going to be building another pipeline. For this pipeline, we're going to do something interesting where we are going to build an Amazon RDS database in AWS Cloud. We're going to connect to that database using Cloud Data Fusion via JDBC. Once we have the data in Cloud Data Fusion, we're going to perform some transformation and then load the data in the BigQuery data warehouse. The third data pipeline we're going to be creating is a real-time data pipeline. For this data pipeline, we're going to be starting out by building a simple .NET application, which we're going to use for publishing messages to a topic that we're going to create in Cloud PubSub. Once we have our messages being pushed to Cloud PubSub, Cloud Dataflow is going to be waiting and ingesting that data in real time and pushing it into BigQuery data warehouse. In chapter 4 of our tutorial, we're going to be building a new data pipeline using another service called Cloud Data Prep. Google and Trifactor partner to deliver this solution or service, and it can be used for gaining insight into data, preparing our data, and can be used for both structured and unstructured data. It is a tool typically used by data scientists, data engineers, and data analysts without any infrastructure or having to write any code. In this tutorial, we're going to be creating a flow, which is sort of a container for holding all our data sets, after which we're going to create recipes, which we are then going to apply to the data sets before we push the output into a destination. So we're going to start out by loading a data set from cloud storage, bringing it into Cloud Data Prep, profiling and analyzing that data, and then we're going to start performing some transformation. Those transformation steps are going to be recorded in what we call recipes, and these recipes are going to be used in a job for transforming all our data sets or data in the data set and loading the output in BigQuery. The second data pipeline, we're going to get data sets from two separate sources, bring it into Cloud Data Prep or perform some joins, and then we'll start profiling and analyzing that data, then create recipes, which we're then going to use for transforming our data before loading the output into BigQuery.